Welcome to the Good Karma Sport Fishing Podcast. I'm your host, Captain Ryan Van Fleet. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Can't believe it's been 3 years. Pretty crazy. 3 years of this podcast. And I just want to thank you guys that have hung in there and listened, and hope the podcast has helped many of you out. I'm sure it has. So I appreciate the emails and all that other good stuff. So I often get asked about why I became a fishing guide. And I went back through all my podcasts and I was like, I never really have talked about that. And what made me decide to be a fishing guide. And I was like, oh, maybe I've talked about this before. I know I've talked about it with clients. So I'm going to tell you guys, because I know I haven't talked about it, why I became a fishing guide. And when you first move to the Keys and become a guide, I thought it was funny, but a prominent captain, you get kind of vetted. So you get captains, you call. It was very interesting. When I first started, I had some guys that called me that I would like, these were guys I had watched on TV, and I was like, why are they calling me? It's like, well, can we come over and see your gear? And that's like, come over and see my gear. I was like, this is weird. So why would they be wanting to come over and see my gear? And they wanted to see my setups, and they wanted to see who I was. And I was like, it was pretty bizarre. And then they asked me why I wanted to be a fishing guide. What made you want to do this? And this was a true story, okay? And this is a very prominent captain that owns a lot of boats. And I was like kind of caught off guard. And I was like, why I became a fishing guide? Why would he ask me that? And why would you want to see all my gear? Why would a big boat that has all these charters want to come over and see a small guy like me? So it's very interesting. I think you guys can figure it out, so I'm not going to talk much about it anymore. But he asked me why I wanted to be a fishing guide, and he was very like, "Why you want to be a fishing guide?" So it's like, dude, man, chill. So, and I've never shared this story because it's very, it's kind of personal, but I feel it's time to share the whole story here, what made me pull the trigger. So when I was a young kid, I didn't even know that fishing guides even existed. All the way into my early, I had 10 years old, I think. I had no clue that when I was watching TV shows, I thought those guys were the only fishing guides that were out there. I had no idea that there were, that you can make money fishing. I had no clue that there was even a fishing, no clue. So my grandparents had bought a retirement home on Lake Holcomb, Wisconsin. Middle of Wisconsin. It's on the Chippewa flowage. And I remember I was with my dad, and we were moving my grandparents in. It was February. I think it was February. No, it was April. It was early April, and the ice was starting to go out. And we were fishing the river there behind, by the flowage. And as you guys all know that live up north, is that in the spring you get the early run of walleyes. So, and I remember it was freezing cold, and I didn't know a damn thing about going and catching walleyes. Nothing. I grew up fishing crappies and pond fishing for bass, and my dad and I were cat fishermen. So we had no clue about walleye fishing. I mean, zero. So, but we stopped at the bait and tackle store, and it's called the Big Minnow. I think that was the name of the tackle store, Big Minnow. And we went in, we started asking the tackle shop guy about what to buy, and he was pointing us to all this stuff. We bought it all. So we go down, he pointed us where to go. We went down to the river, and of course, we're not having any luck, and I'm freezing because it's really cold and snowing. And I hook a big walleye. I was so stoked. And I was actually in the water, and I was cold, and it was just, anyways, and it was snowing everywhere. And I bring in the walleye. I reach down, because we didn't have a net. And I reached down to grab the walleye, and the walleye dropped off the hook. I grabbed a hold of the walleye, and it slipped out of my hands. And it was a big walleye. And I literally lost the fish. I'm 10 years old. I'm a very emotional guy to begin with. Most of you guys know that have fished with me. I'm very emotional. And that's just how I'm wired. And run on 100% adrenaline when I'm fishing. And I wasn't any different when I was a kid. And I was just like, I was pretty passionate. And I literally broke down. I was angry. I was like yelling at my dad, why don't you come help me? What the deal? What's happening? Why aren't you catching any fish? Why aren't we catching anything? And I really was like it was just, I still remember this. I can still picture this whole thing in my mind because it was such a interesting day, meaning that it was just something about it. So we pack up all our stuff. I am super bummed, and I remember I was crying, and my dad was like, not talking to me. And it's like, it was just one of those situations when you're a kid. I don't know how the hell I remember this, but this is how it went down. So we're walking the path up the woods, and my dad locked his keys out of the car. So we're freezing. I'm wet and soaked because I was in the water trying to get a walleye. I'm pissed off at my dad because he didn't help me. So, of course, I'm like pouting and not talking to him. And up come the trail comes a guy. He's dressed up in like camo bibs. He's got all the fancy gear on, and he's got a stringer full of walleyes. And I was like, how the fuck? So he comes up to my dad, and he's like, you guys need a hand? And he's like, yeah. My dad goes, yeah, we've locked our keys out of the car. So he says, well, let me give you guys a lift, and we can, take you where you need to be. And the guy was very generous. And I remember getting in the back of the guy's car, and my dad drove in the front. And my dad asked the guy, he says, yeah, you had a good day. He's like, well, I'm a fishing guide. And I was like, so my dad knew what a fishing guide was, but I didn't know. So I started asking questions. Of course, I was a curious kid, like most fishing kids are. And so the guy explained, what he did and how much he charged. And I wanted to book with him. But my dad said no, which pissed me off even more. So told me how much it costs, and I was like, yeah, you can take it out of my Christmas and all that stuff. So I'm like, I'm doing the kid haggle, man. You guys that have kids know, you got kid haggling. I call it the kid haggle. So I'll trade you this for that. And so the guy dropped us off. He was very nice. And I still remember seeing all those walleyes on that stringer, and I was like, wow. And that guy gets paid to go fishing. So, of course, me as a kid, then I start going and buying all these magazines. I'm trying to find out who this guy is, and I got his card, and I never got that out of my head. Never about that day and seeing that guy. And that was the first time I ever met a fishing guide. And I think a lot of things kind of happen over the course of one person's life that put them in momentum for something. So, of course, the years go by, and you kind of like, it's a pipe dream. It's never going to happen. And, and I was raised to, you need to get a job after college. You need to go to 9 to 5. I didn't have any sort of entrepreneurship, like training, I guess you can say. And I just tell the parents nowadays is that you really got to teach your kids about like that they can make their own life. They can make their own business, give them some business training, teach them confidence that they can do anything in their life. And that doesn't mean you have to go to college. And I went to college, and yeah, I look at it, I'm like, maybe I should have skipped college, but if I did, maybe that path wouldn't have brought me here. So I don't know. So it's just something I just tell people nowadays, and it's like you just have to live your life and let it take you in one direction. If your gut feeling is telling you to go and do something, I tell people to do it. And if you're unhappy with a situation, then you need to make a change in your life to make it better. So what was the final straw that made me follow and just say, I got to do this? Because I just couldn't get it out of my brain. I would go to work, regular jobs. I couldn't get it out of my brain. I just couldn't, guys. I couldn't. It's hard to explain. I am wired a lot differently than most people. And everybody's has their own human design and how they're wired and made. So you should never compare yourself to another person, was what I'm saying, because everybody's made differently. And I just couldn't. It was just messed up, man. I just couldn't get it out of my brain. I was unhappy. I was miserable because I knew what I was doing and wasn't like what I was meant to be doing. So the final straw was my brother-in-law, who I had like just gotten to know and was getting to know after I got married to Melinda. He super great guy, and he was really had his shit together, and was very like just an awesome dude. And I was like, I highly respected that. And I just was like learning that I needed to grow up and I needed to do all this stuff. And he was there. And I asked, like, it was just a bizarre time for me. And Jason passed away of brain cancer in his early 30s. So he was very healthy. He had nothing wrong with him. And he didn't drink and he didn't smoke. And that was my wake-up call. So I remember the cold day we went down and I got a marlin tattoo, and that marlin tattoo was for him and a life-changing thing for me. So I had no clue that I would be where I was today, but I knew that marlin tattoo was for him because he was a fighter, and I was going to make a change in my life, and it was going to be a hard change because that guy worked hard, man. He worked hard, and I wanted to do something right and kind of make him proud too. So I made a life change, and here I am today. It has not been easy at all. At all. There's been so many obstacles in the road. And sometimes when I do the podcast, I was like, when I talk about some of the things that happen out there, for me, it's about the fishing and the passion to be out there and to love it. When I look at my marlin tattoo, I think about Jason, and he was a fighter. And when I got the tattoo, it was this like the last bit of encouragement that I needed to make the change. And when I am like struggling still and I'm out on the water and I really need some help, I look down at the tattoo. I'm like, it's in the end, I'm very like, I tell people, you got to really, really, really love it, okay, to be good at it, and really love it. There's fishing, and then there's loving it, okay? So the marlin tattoo is something that really like energizes me when I'm down. It reminds me of all the struggles that I've been through, the fight. It's just a strong fish. One of my favorite fish by far. And that's why it's there. That's why I got it. Am I going to get another tattoo? Probably not. So, because there is no other symbols that I need. That is the only thing I need right there. So there you go. That's why I wanted to be a fishing guide. And the great fishing guides that I knew when I was growing up helped people. They showed people tips. They actually showed stuff that worked. And that's gone. I'm sorry, guys. That shit's gone. So in order to be a well-rounded person, and one thing, too, I want to tell you guys is that I originally went to school to be a teacher. And my grandmother was a teacher. So I really, really enjoy the whole aspect of teaching people. And I feel that I owe that to my grandmother, who was there for me when I needed to, when I needed her. And she encouraged me to really like teach people. She wanted me to teach kids and like just do anything in the teaching field. And I kind of wanted to be a teacher, but then I realized I just didn't want to do it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't deal with it. So I kind of wrapped that all into what I'm doing now. So I am doing my best to teach people on a weekly basis, give them some small nuggets to become better fishermen. And I'm just talking real shit, man. I'm just telling you how I feel. And because I feel that there's a lot of fake stuff out there right now, and people trying to this fishing industry has gone to shit with some of the stuff that I'm seeing. I don't watch any TV shows anymore. I just think there's too much sponsor branded stuff out there. Everybody's trying to be something that, I don't know, it's kind of crazy. And if you've seen my pictures, I post pictures of bloody ass shirts. That's what I know of fishing guides, man. The guides that I grew up watching. Those fuckers weren't afraid to get dirty. So that's all I got for today, guys. Next week we'll get back to some educational stuff, but that's a good start for season 3. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you follow me on Instagram. You can get the latest Porgy report. And my Instagram is goodkarmasportfishing_FL_keys. You can get into my private Facebook group. That's Good Karma Sport Fishing. You'll need to submit a request to join the group. I keep the group pretty tight. I do vet backgrounds. Make sure you download the app. You can get the app through the iTunes Store, Google Play Store, the Good Karma Sport Fishing app. Great app. Got a lot of stuff planned for it. It's really good. So I've got Solar Lunar on there, and I give you guys a lot of wind sites for free that you guys have to pay for now on most premium wind channels. So you can get like Alligator Light on there. Yeah, and check out my website from time to time, goodkarmasportfishing.com. That's all I got, guys. And remember, anytime you're fishing, it's all good.